All right, well, people who have nothing to do with the war in Israel are being persecuted for either being Jewish or being Muslim, both. I dare say this may even be worse than the way that Russians have been prejudiced against since the war in Ukraine began last year. I don't like that word worse because I don't like to rank human suffering. A lot of wars and arguments right now are coming around who's suffering the most, who has it worst, the Jews or the Muslims. But this is bad at this point. There's a lot of them having it equally bad. Watch a group of people harassing a Jewish student at Harvard and preventing him from just walking. Okay, what did that guy do other than being Jewish? He's not launching any bombs. He's not there. He's trying to go to school. Apparently, this has been reported that this group included even the editor of the Harvard Law Review, a man named Ibrahim Barmal. This is the same person who had previously won an award for compassion. So that wasn't a very compassionate thing to do. Again, I know we're all super emotional about this war in Israel, especially. Emotions are high and people want to be acknowledged for that pain. I get it. But we're taking it out on people who are not decision makers, who are not warmongers, who have nothing to do with it just for their feelings. Anything we can do to turn down the temperature and speak for peace needs to be done. But don't worry about it, you guys, because the White House is going to solve this. Look at this. They launched a campaign to counter Islamophobia. They got it. They got this one. The initiative includes U.S. government efforts to counter Islamophobia, antisemitism, and related forms of bias and discrimination. What can they do? Well, one idea is peace. Stop bombing places where those people hearken from. That's just like, one idea.
No way.
Talking about the
It's not
anti-Semite
possible.
thing. Palestinians or Semites. I mean, like, do they count? Some of them?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, here's what they say they're going to do. The peace idea that I just had, well, you could tell Philip thought that was laughable. What they say they will do is develop a strategy. Cool. It's cool. Develop a strategy. Can't wait.
I'm convinced.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait. They'll focus group that. Again, maybe that strategy could involve not bombing Middle Eastern countries or illegally occupying them, such as our current illegal occupation of Syria. Not colonizing places is a good start to help stop prejudice against the people who live there. And speaking on behalf of all people and all human suffering is also a good start. It actually does seem like the U.S. is starting to get a tad bit uncomfortable with all the suffering of the Palestinians. Even if they refuse to ask Israel to de-escalate, you can start to see in these statements and appearances by the State Department and the White House, they are squirming. They do not like to be normalizing this violence. In fact, President Biden has called for a pause on Israel's strike on Palestinian territories. It's not a full-on ceasefire, but it's something. When asked about a ceasefire, the president kind of sort of agreed, saying, I think we need a pause. And a pause means time to get the prisoners out. Prisoners, yes, but also civilians. The president at least mentioned the attacks in the West Bank as something he didn't like, so maybe that's a bit of a glimmer of conscience there. Now, the Wall Street Journal reports that there are attacks in the West Bank that have ramped up by Israeli settlers. I want to talk about this a little bit more. So the West Bank, if you don't really know the geography, has nothing to do with Gaza. It's a separate place. What it has to do is that they are also Palestinians there, but they are not run by Hamas. They also were not involved in this October 7th attack. They are just a separate Palestinian territory. Here's what the president said. He says they're attacking Palestinians in places they're entitled to be, like the Palestinians are entitled to be, and it has to stop now. That's what our president is saying. Go ahead.
Shouldn't they be entitled to be anywhere in there with their homes? Like they're entitled to be in this one area that they're worried about? Like that, it's the rhetoric from the president
that's what
during this whole thing has been
No, he's saying they should be there. Like they're being attacked in the West Bank where they... Yeah.
In the whole West Bank.
Right.
Okay, I thought it meant just that little area that those because like he said, I think it was yesterday on Twitter that we can both support Israel and send aid to Gaza, and I'm thinking you're supporting Israel with weapons to attack the people that you're going to send food and water to. Like, who's going to win that one?
Right.
Like the rhetoric coming out of there is just like yeah.
But given that we have so little talk about one side suffering, I find that to be a small, like, crack in the wall that you can see light coming through, because we're at least saying those people are suffering and it's effing terrible. Now, what they're saying here is that Israeli settlers are attacking people in the West Bank. Well, what does that mean, Israeli settlers? Because it's not the Israeli ministry. It's not the defense ministry. It's not the official ministry. So what is this? So I reached out to our own correspondent, Dan Cohen, who has lived in Israel before, done many documentaries about Palestinians, and he explained it in a way that I thought was so good. He left me a voicemail that I thought I would just let you listen to my voicemail that was on my WhatsApp, if you don't mind. So listen to exactly how we're calling Israeli settlers. Listen.
Israeli settlers, broadly refers to people like Israelis who live in the West Bank, in occupied territory. So these ones that are carrying out these attacks basically see this whole war as an opportunity to ethnically cleanse, carry out pogroms in the West Bank and West Bank Palestinian villages in order to, terrorize them and get them to flee. They basically, a lot of them tend to live in like little illegal outposts, is what they call them. Like an outpost is like, and it's even illegal by Israeli law. So you have settlements that are illegal under international law, but then, the Israeli government rubber stamps it. And then you have what are called outposts, where it's like someone will just go build, a little structure on a hilltop or whatever that's Palestinian, and it's illegal under Israeli law, but then the Israeli government will eventually rubber stamp it. And so it's all completely strategic in ways to surround Palestinian villages, terrorize them in order to get people to flee. There's been a whole lot more activity like that, including, straight up attacks on farmers, especially in different villages. That village that's mentioned in that Wall Street Journal article, Kusra, has been under attack for years. There's one nearby, back in 2016, a very famous attack where Israeli settlers, they're called the Hilltop Youth, these ones who go make outposts. They snuck into a Palestinian village called Duma at night and threw a firebomb into a house and killed the mom, the dad, and the 2-year-old baby. And only a little boy who was maybe 5 at the time survived. I was actually there. I did a piece on it, and I went and visited the kid in the hospital. So it's a long-term thing, but with what's happening, there's a huge uptick in it. And those super fanatic settlers who are carrying out these attacks, they've been, previously they were kind of not hounded, but surveilled by the Israeli government and the police and the security services. However, they've basically taken over the government in a large way. I'll send you a tweet that shows a perfect example. There's a guy who is one of them who was convicted, or he was investigated for burning a mosque, for burning an Israeli police vehicle, for brutalizing, assaulting Palestinians. And on October 6th, the day before the big Hamas attack, he was actually in a Palestinian village called Hawara, where Hawara is what it's called, where he was, he instigated a pogrom and they killed a Palestinian the day before this whole Hamas thing.
All right. So as part of my official reporting, I'm playing you my voice messages with Dan's permission. But I thought that was actually really great context, because it's interesting that the way he describes it, well, I wouldn't call them, what is the word that we're using here? Settlers. I would maybe call
Settlers, yeah.
them terrorists. That's another word, right? I mean, I know that's a strong semantics. Now, he did leave another voicemail, which I didn't play you, to say it's a small group that a lot of times, if you're like a young Israeli family, you can find some pretty good neighborhoods in the West Bank that the Israeli government will subsidize you moving into, and you get a pretty good deal. So it's not all Israelis in the West Bank that are doing this, but there's a group of these extremist or settlers, or another word for it, maybe terrorists, right, that are operating, and no one's doing anything about it except this sort of like, you shouldn't do this article in the Wall Street Journal. Now, about this, like maybe they shouldn't be doing so much to retaliate on Palestinian civilians, Israel didn't seem to get that message. Overnight, Israeli forces reportedly struck the Jabalia refugee camp, claiming it was targeting a high-ranking Hamas commander there. Palestinian authorities said that almost 200 people died in that strike. The United Nations on Wednesday said this about it. They said the high number of civilian casualties and scale of destruction following Israeli airstrikes on Jabalia refugee camp, we have serious concerns that there are disproportionate attacks that could amount to war crimes. Could amount to war crimes, possibly. It's a philosophical question, I guess, when it comes to Israel. So let us know if these are the actions that you think are going to help counter anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. We could stop that, and those things will also probably decline, or we could just release a press release saying we are against it, and then keep on doing what we're doing. What do you think? Which one's the better plan? Let us know what you think. So we have more news to get to. We're going to talk about wind farms and how they are killing whales. We spoke about this last week, and actually Clayton was like, what's that? Wind farms kill whales? I promised I would bring that research. I did, in fact, bring that research, and there's news about it, too, so it's a good time. We're going to talk about also renaming birds, because so many of them are named after racists, and we cannot have that. That's probably been hurting your feelings for a long time. Don't worry, though. Ornithology societies are going to fix it right here and now. Before we do that, though, a couple things. I want to tell you about the Redacted store, because we have a store that you can show your support for Redacted to the world. If you head on over to redactedstore.com, you can get these hoodies, these posters, you can get a mug that's railing against the mainstream media, plus my favorite, non-pacifist peace extremist, because that is a saying that I made up, and I will take it to the grave. In fact, I would really like it if that were on my gravestone. You guys remember that and tell Clayton later and make that happen if I suddenly die. Okay. Here lies Natalie, mother of three.
Yeah, if nothing else, we will come graffiti it on there for you.
That works. That works. Okay. Or you know what I would really like too is maybe one of those like bat signals that has like non-pacifist peace extremists just like projected onto my gravestone, because I'm taking that one to the bank, guys. There's nothing you can do to ever convince me that violence is the answer. I just will not. So bring it on. Anyway, yes, if you'd like to wear things like that, head on over to redactedstore.com. Check out what we've got for you. All right,